Hello, and welcome to day 4 of 30 days of Q&A. Today we're going to talk about what not to say in a job interview. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Janine Esbrand and I'm the founder of Lightbox Coaching, where I help women to build careers that they love whilst raising a family. Now, one of the questions that I got asked is what not to say in an interview. So when you're preparing for an interview, what shouldn't you say? And when I got asked the question, it reminded me of a time when a friend of mine told me about her interview experience. So I asked her how her interview had gone, and she said it was going really well up until she got towards the end of the interview. And the interviewer asked her, why does she want the job? And her mind went completely blank. And she didn't have anything to say when they said, why do you want the job? Well, I think the question was actually, why should we hire you? And her response was, I really need this job and I really want this job. Full stop. That's all she had to say. Needless to say, she didn't get the job because that question was where she fell down. And so I'm gonna talk through today 5 different points, 5 different things that you should avoid saying in interview, or 5 different ways you should avoid answering in interviews. So I'd like to hear from you though. So type yes in the comments if you've ever been stumped by an interview question and just felt like you wanted the ground to open up when they asked the question because you just didn't know how to answer. So type yes in the comments if that's ever been you. So I'm going to share with you what not to say. So the first thing is try not to overshare with some of the questions. So the first question that you might get asked is, so tell me a bit about yourself. And this sometimes throws people off because they don't really know how much detail they're supposed to go into. And when they say, tell me about yourself, do they mean like your personal life or do they mean your professional life? And so some people just approach this in the wrong way and then just share way too much information and go off on a tangent about their whole life story and then kind of forget why they were answering the question, and then it just goes on forever, and the interviewer is just waiting to get started properly with the interview. So when you're asked that question, tell me about yourself, really what you want to do is talk about your professional history, talk about what's led you to this position now. So you talk about your degree, your studies, and then the jobs that you had after that, and then lead up to where you are in the present day. And you can throw in a little bit about yourself on a personal level, but you don't want to go into too much detail about your whole life history. That's not what they want to know. They're asking you because they want to know about your background. Yes, they would have seen your CV, your cover letter, your application form, but they might not have been the person that reviewed it. They might have had someone in HR review it, and now they're interviewing. So don't assume that they know anything. Just tell them and walk them through your career history when you're answering that question. So that's the first one. So don't go off on a tangent about your personal life too much when they ask you to tell you about tell them about you. And then the second one is the question about your weaknesses. So this is a question that a lot of people don't like to answer, and it's really difficult to answer. But one of the responses that has become super duper cliche is that I'm a perfectionist. So people will say, I'm a perfectionist and I really like to do everything right, and so sometimes that causes me issues because I take too long to get tasks done, and then I can't progress to other tasks. Now, this is an answer that has just been killed. Like, so many people say that, it's so cliche that it's not really giving an potential employer an insight into you as a person. So with that weaknesses question, you want to really think about how can I be genuine here? What are my weaknesses? But you can state what they are, but then you can talk about how you have gone about mitigating those weaknesses. So what steps have you taken to improve those? So for example, if you're somebody who's not good at delegating, you can talk about how you've made a conscious effort to be able to figure out what task can go to somebody else. Or if you're somebody who is lacks attention to detail, you can talk about how you've tried to slow down in your approach to your work, or you've tried to implement different things that are helping you to get better at that. So do talk about the weaknesses because everyone has them. You can also counter with your strengths. So you can talk about what your weaknesses are when you're answering the question, but then you can also touch on what some of your strengths are that balance out those weaknesses as well. So I would definitely say that you need to focus there, but don't say I'm a perfectionist, because everyone's heard that so many times and it just comes across as not really genuine because it's become so cliche. So the other one is if you ask questions about the role and about the organisation or the interviewer that are too obvious. So questions where you could have got the answer by doing a bit of research. So you don't want to do that. You don't want to say, okay, well, tell me about this job, or tell me about the organisation, or can you tell me a bit more about what you do. All of that is information you could have found out when you were researching before you go into the interview. So you don't want to give the impression that you haven't spent the time finding out the information that is readily available to you. So don't ask the questions that are just kind of just surface level questions that you absolutely could have found out beforehand, because that doesn't give a good impression. So don't do that. The other one I've got down, I'm just writing, looking at my notes. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? That's a common question. Or where do you see yourself in 3 years? Where do you see yourself in 5 years? And what they want to get at is what your future plans are, what your motivations are. And so one of the things that you don't want to do is say something like, I want to be in your position. So that does show ambition. So if you're showing that you don't necessarily want to stay where you are, but you don't want to just go in and be showing that you want to put that person's position. You want to take their position. It just doesn't come off right. Like, yes, you do have ambition and you want to grow with the company, but to say I want to be in your shoes, or I want to be a manager like you, or I want to get to your particular position, just isn't necessarily the right approach. And it might be fine for some people, but it might rub people up the wrong way and think, hey, you're being primed, or you want to be primed to take my role, and that's not something that everyone's going to want to give up. And so just think about how you're communicating what your 5-year plan is and what your future plan is. And the other one I wanted to touch on is the why you question. So after the interview, often towards the end of the interview, you'll get the opportunity to say, why should you be hired against, above and beyond other candidates? And this is your opportunity. This is your opportunity to shine. This is your opportunity to bring in anything that hasn't come up previously in the interview. You want to bring that in. So you don't want to take the approach of my friend at the beginning, that I mentioned at the beginning, where they asked why you, and her response was, because I want the job. No, you want to be showing why you, in terms of your skills and how it matches to what they're looking for and your suitability. So this is your time to kind of list out, show your confidence, show what your skills are, and demonstrate that you've done research about the organisation, about the role, and you're able to match your experience and your expertise with what they're looking for in the role. So don't be giving one-liners at this time. This is your time to just bring it all out and make sure that when you leave the interview, you've told them what you wanted to tell them, because you can't assume that they know anything about you. So you want to make sure that you're sharing the right things when you answer that question. So just to recap, the first thing is, you don't want to overshare. You don't want to give too much information about your personal life when they're just really wanting to know about your professional background. You want to make sure that when you're talking about your weaknesses, that you're being genuine and you are showing how you have gone about trying to mitigate some of your weaknesses. And then you want to make sure that you are not saying that in 5 years' time you want to take the person's role, but you're showing what your ambitions are and how you see your career progressing within the next 5 years. And then you don't want to be asking questions about the role or the organisation that are really obvious, or ones that you could have researched and found out about online previously, or by looking at the website or company promotional materials. And then you want to not be given one-liners to the answer to the question why you. You want to make sure that you're bringing everything in that you want them to know and you need them to know about you and your suitability for the role. So those are what not to say, and then what to say when you are interviewing. And I hope you found those useful. So this was day 4 of 30 days of Q&A. If you have found this useful and you like this video, please share with any of your friends or family who are job searching, because they might find this series useful. And also, I've decided that because there will be so many videos and we're covering so many different topics over the 30 days, I'm going to bring these all together in one place, so that you can log in and you can access all of the videos as and when you want to. And so if you would like that, then do type in the comments yes, and then I will arrange for you to get what you need to be able to access the whole of the series whenever you want to. So that's all I have for you today. Come back and join me tomorrow when it will be on day 5 of 30 days of Q&A. And yeah, I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Bye.